some history to give for Toy. He is on loan from hashtag esports, an org that we haven't seen in a long time. But remember, hashtag question mark. So he's from there, and we'll have to see. There was some chatter there with Savage, talking to Toy. Everyone saying Toy Dotes, best Dotes, Toy King. We'll see if he delivers today.
I was reading that he's been playing for quite a while. I'm not 100% sure. Again, I feel like I've seen him before in games, but I just don't remember exactly who it is. But it should be an absolute pleasure to see how he does do here for Motivate. Of course, Motivate, this is lower bracket. If they don't win out this series against T1, they're getting knocked out. So it's a pretty interesting position for them not to have their full roster here. But I do wonder how well Toy can do in this matchup against T1, who quite frankly have been a bit off themselves. You know, people weren't expecting T1 to be in the lower bracket this early on, but here we are. You know, it is SCA, anything can happen. I'm very curious now to see how this stand-in for Motivate does do against the likes of T1.
Yeah, just how much he can contribute, what heroes Toy wants to play as well. It's a big factor because we know Motivate.Trust loves to get those big farming cores for Jackie. Let's see if the playstyle adjusts. Already have the draft on hand here. They blitz true right fast. Motivate.Trust, they've got the Grimstroke Clock along with the Sand King Lina. So they've got the support Grimstroke Clockwork to play with. Sand King, more than likely on the off lane for Masaros. Decent enough combinations with a Grimstroke up. Like you can Inkswell Burst Strike in, Sandstorm to just zone out that enemy core, Lina on mid for Fearless, fairly standard hero, hard to beat out, almost like the TA. And speaking of that TA, it was banned out by T1, so no option for them to have that on Carl. His Doom was banned as well, and T1 for their start, they've got Lion, Magnus, and Enchantress. So with the Magnus on hand, we might see a dip back to, say, Savage PA. That could be a very big option here with the Empower on hand. All the big right clickers are really good options here. You could maybe even dip in for the Luna. You know, not caring about the cleave, just caring about the added damage is one way to go about it. Instead, go with Spectre for Savage. So a much slower build-up for T1. Like Magnus itself is also slightly greedy, needing the blink to be active. And the RP cooldown's pretty long. Spectre Haunt cooldown's supremely long. I suppose the farming issue is mitigated a bit by Magnus with Empower, but it's still a rather slow farmer regardless on the Spectre. So we'll have to see how fast and how willing Savage is to kind of join these early fights with Haunt.
I mean, yeah, we've seen the Spectre quite a bit as of late, and every time we see it, it just never looks good. You get into the ultra late game, you think that's the time this Spectre is going to be unkillable like it used to be in the previous metas, but it's just not the case. Mind you, I don't think there's necessarily the big counters towards the Spectre this game anyway. I'd say maybe the scariest thing is going to be that mid laner we're looking at, as mid laner with the right click, once you get the Daedalus up, does start to hit extremely hard. And quite frankly, I think you're out of range for dispersion anyway, if you do get the maximum attack range with the laner. What is it, Jonathan? What are you laughing about this time?
I know chat can't see it, but if you open up the lobby, the game chat right now on the lower right, Whitemon's just constantly spamming well played. I don't know why. He's just constantly spamming out well played.
Because it's Whitemon, John. He's always got something he has to do. Oh, Whitemon. This is why the servers are unstable all the time. People like Whitemon just spamming stuff during the draft phase. And here's poor me in Australia, barely connecting to the server. You know, I'm on thin ice right now as it is, Whitemon. Just calm down with the spam, sir. Last pickup, going to be the DK. So pretty well-rounded kind of draft from T1. I don't think you're 100% reliant on the Spectre anyway. I mean, DK can carry, Magnus can carry. Just kind of depends on who gets the really good laning stage and who kind of takes off. I think it's a very well-rounded draft for T1. It just looks like it's going to take a lot longer to come online in say, comparison to Motivate.Trust, who do get the Wraith King up. And now you've certainly got a really nice power spike in the mid-game.
Yeah, it lines up for Motivate.Trust. They've got this good aggression. By the 15 to 20 minute mark, they can play really quick around that Wraith King. Funny enough, this is also a very big Jackie hero that Motivate.Trust pick up. So we'll see if they can play fast enough to choke out 23 Savage. For T1, I mean, they've got DK Magnus. They can get a good push going. They can accelerate that Spectre's farm with Empower. And most certainly with the DK mid, it should hold steady, although T1, it looks like they're kind of holding out on what they want, and it will be Carl's DK mid, Cuckoo on the offlane mag. Overall, draft-wise, I think I'd lean towards Motivate.Trust just because they have great scaling with Lina and Raid King. They have this nice early spike as well, come mid game compared to T1. Whereas T1, they're held back by RP cooldown, they're held back by Haunt cooldown. You can play around with your DK once Blink is up and just kind of try to run and gun there. But I feel like Motivate.Trust have a really scary spike earlier on, and that might be enough to overwhelm the Spectre.
Okay, fair. So are you telling me that Motivate.Trust has the better draft going into this game one, John? Is that what you're saying?
Yep. I think their draft is just lined up for an earlier spike, and if the Spectre falls behind, it falls behind pretty hard.
Okay, fair. I do kind of agree with you on that. I mean, again, we've seen Spectre so often, and it just doesn't transition into the late game anymore. Not as well as it used to, that's for sure. Which is very ironic considering the Arcana just recently came out, and generally when an Arcana comes out, everything changes for the hero, but not this year. Well, we are having a new patch in 5 days. You never really know, I guess. Then again, we have that, do we have like a Void? Something with Faces Void coming out as well this year?
Are we supposed to?
I don't know. I can't remember. I can't remember. Pretty sure there's like a Void Arcana that's meant to be coming out.
Well, I'd love to see it so we get more Pause 5 Void. Not Pause 1. Buzz off with a Pause 1. Pause 5 Void is where it's at. I want to spread the evangel of Red Panda. That's it. That's all I want. Gotta see it, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, hold on. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a lot, in fact. We'll head over to game 1, though. Motivate.Trust Gaming versus T1. Lower bracket, round of 3. One of these teams is going to have to go home. And, of course, for anyone that's just tuned in, Jackie is not here. He is having to do something else. So you have got Toy standing in, and everyone's very happy about it. I even saw in the chat, John, Toy is some kind of national hero here. So everyone's talking about Toy.
Yeah, it's great to see. Like, God, I wish I knew what we're saying. I can't read Thai, sadly. But I'm sure there's some good bants in there. Savage has been going on since the lobby. Whitemon's trying to sneak in. He's got to get his message out, but I think everyone's just ignoring Whitemon for everyone's own sanity, you know? Because it's Whitemon. Funny fact, I was talking about the game chat a while ago in the draft. Remember B1 and B2, Fearless and Masaros?
Yeah.
Right as we went into the game, Fearless and Masaros had a disconnect. So, you know, they're joined at the hip. Those two, B1 and B2, same bunch of bananas there. We'll see if they go in sync this time. You know, last time around, their movements were really clean for Motivate.Trust. Again, big question still on Toy, despite all the positivity. You never know. Have they played enough with Toy? Can they readjust compared to Jackie? We'll just have to wait and see.
That we will, John. Very excited to see this debut here on Motivate.Trust. I'm sure Jackie's somewhere watching right now, tuning into the game hopefully, cheering on his team.
30 seconds to battle.
Probably shouting at his phone as well, just based off what Motivate.Trust does. T1, bit of a dance party in the dyed triangle, nothing wrong with that. It's like Motivate.Trust, they're going to start trying... What is it, John? What are they doing now?
Sticker War, Chill and Loser from Carl and Whitemon.
They're going to fight over this bot bounty, it looks like. Zephyr and Cuckoo are around. You've got to be a little bit wary of that Earth Spike and the Skewer back. Toy. Wraith by Blast is there. Will be 3 for 1. So Motivate. Pretty solid start for them with a 3 bounty rune trade. T1, they don't look too bothered by this. I mean, they do have a draft where you are going to take some time to be up and online. You probably don't want to give any advantage away to Motivate if you can avoid it. So I can respect the fact that they just don't want to give that First Blood gold away right now.
Yeah, I get it. What I did not expect was it's actually Masaros on Lina. I was assuming mid Lina this entire time. It's off lane Lina with a clockwork here on Q. They are laning up against Savage and Whitemon, and this should be a pretty annoying lane for Savage regardless. Masaros, of course, once he gets the levels and the Fiery Soul, you trade right clicks, it's a good time. You can melt through the Lina, the Spectre quite nicely. Q is the one that's going to have a rough time here. Up against an Enchantress, you can't really just run up, proc the Battery Assault and hope for the best. Early leveling the impetus here for Whitemon just means harassment's going to be a bit more difficult. And we have seen Whitemon on the edge quite a few times. He knows how to play the hero on edge. He knows when to dip out to just secure the jungle and stack up. And that should be just one very solid way for them to start getting some build up in the jungle down the line for 23 Savage.
Absolutely. Over in the mid lane, of course, you've got Carl there against Fearless. Should be quite a passive kind of lane. I suppose Fearless could still manage to pick off Carl here on the DK because he does have a lot of magic damage.
Look at
you
that.
see that Caustic Finale and the Burrow Strike now out. T1 Tower, though, going to really do quite a bit back the way of Fearless. In fact, now they actually might kill each other. Carl, he's gone too far, but no. He gets the Fairy Fire off. Both mid laners, very low HP. But what I was trying to say, John, is Fearless will have plenty of magic damage, and as you saw, even with that level 1 Caustic Finale, it is quite a lot of harass the way of Carl.
Yeah, it's just not fun for the DK. Melee matchups never good against the Sand King. Fearless just getting a lot of farm here. Just has to watch how far he overextends. Does have the bottle up, so he can sustain that harassment even more. And I think the one advantage you have as Sand King in the matchup is wave clear and jungle camps as well. Like Sandstorm is a lot stronger than Breed Fire, so Fearless, even in a very static lane like this, can still build the lead out with his small camp.
Oh, another Burrow Strike. Won't lead to much though this time. Plus bot lane, final lane we haven't discussed too much. Zephyr and Cuckoo going to be there against Set Zero and Toy. Cuckoo having a pretty excellent time right now on the Magnus, because you are going to be able to CS very well with that Empower. And I mean, in terms of kind of fighting back, there's not really too much Motivate can do right now. Even with the levels up, I think you still have to be very wary of Zephyr and Cuckoo here with this line Magnus. They're going to try, get a bit of harassment out. Stroke of Fate actually off the mark. So I think he may have been aiming for the range creep anyway. I think apart from that little combo you just saw, not too much you can do to really harass out Cuckoo right now.
No, he's going to have a stable farm, stable time farming up. You always worry about Earth Spike into Skewer, so you can't really posture too aggressively there like this.
Yeah, you called it, John. There it is, Toy. Run back, Hex is out. They're going to try and body block Toy, taking a fair bit of damage, but will eventually get the stun off onto Cuckoo. Still another Earth Spike is there. Zephyr Shockwave. Oh, they were right on the edge with that one, but they do manage to get the first blood gold the way of Zephyr. And of all people, they do pick off Toy.
Yeah, that's going to really slow down the Raid King. Already missing out on a lot of CS. Huge wave as well. Good job from Set Zero to pull the wave all the way back. Trying to give some time for the Raid King to come back in, but this is already a great start for T1. We mentioned the draft being greedier. If Cuckoo gets off to a start like this, he's not going to miss his timings too much despite being on the off lane.
23 Savage, top lane, going to try and go onto Q. Masaros going to make sure he does remain protected. Back at mid for a second. Very even between these two, and I suppose that was to be expected. Carl actually finds himself in front in terms of CS right now on that DK. I think you are well and truly at the stage now where you just can't kill each other. I mean, level 3 Dragon's Blood, yeah, you have the magic damage, but Carl, he's just so tanky. Already 1.1k HP at 4.5 minutes. Fearless, even with the Epicenter, I honestly don't think he'd have anywhere near enough.
No, he's just going to go into farming, and it's at that point where it gets boring. It gets a bit more exciting for Carl, because Dragon Form can look to push in that mid-tier 1. So that's going to be a good time for T1 to kind of look for maybe an early rotation out with Whitemon, get some damage on the tower, force a response out from Motivate.Trust. Overall, rather even start from both sides. 0 to 1, less than 1k lead standing here for T1. Big differences in the pause ones, but it's not too far apart, all things considered, although Q.
Yeah, he rushed forward there with the battery assault onto Whitemon. Yeah, and he's going to be able to get away thanks to the cogs blocking that tree line. But every lane is quite passive at the moment. It's one of those stages of the game where you just gotta secure CS. No need to try and force a fight. Neither team's willing to give the advantage away. Even at this bot lane. I mean, we saw the first blood happen here, but that was quite on the edge. Looks like Motivate, they won't be really attempting to take any risks here with Cuckoo and Zephyr anymore. Can play it much safer. But as I say that, they're going to make the jump in onto Cuckoo now. Wraith Fire Blast, but there's your skewer back to the low ground. Still, Toy is more than happy to try and fight this one out as the Stroke of Fate does land, and Cuckoo does take a substantial amount of damage, but he has the 2 tangos. He's going to be just fine. He'll get a free reset here underneath that tier 1 tower.
Yeah, not going to be too bad for him. He's getting a lot of space for the EXP gain. That's the big thing here for Cuckoo, about to hit 5. So he's going to have maybe the 2-2-1 build or the 3-1-1 build for more Shockwave on hand. And once you have the RP, that's when it can get a bit scary. You can just chain stun with your line double stun and just kind of hammer in that kill before level 6 comes out for Toy. Toy's not going to have that early mana pool as well for Reincarnate just because he's playing against Lion. So even if you hit 6 here on Toy, it's not a guarantee he's going to live through a gank attempt.
Absolutely not. Whitemon, he's got that ensnare creep now. Very powerful creep to try and set up a gank at this top lane. Q going in for the battery assault. He's the one that's been caught out. And now Masaros moving in for the Light Strike array, but he can't quite get in range for it. The Dragon Slave, though, will prove to be enough. Nice little setup there from Q. And a bit unfortunate for Whitemon. He was trying to micro the creep down the river to sneak up behind Masaros, but unfortunately for him, Q does spot him out before he can actually get the ensnare off.
Yeah. It's just a lot of aggression now coming out with the levels here on Motivate. They trap Savage.
Yeah, that's a big one. He just used the dagger as well. Cog's pushback is there. Q wants to dive, and they've got the Laguna. Great pick off there from Motivate.Trust as T1. It's a hard lane to run, even with the Enchantress. It's still a Spectre. There's only so much you can do. So when Whitemon's not around, Savage is going to be very, very open to just kill off like that.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they went for the Laguna instead of the Dragon Slave. Feels like there was enough damage to just melt him through. Doesn't matter, you get the kill in the end. I think for Whitemon now, what he has to start considering is stacking up the jungle. Maybe it's a bit early, there is a ward watching for Motivate.Trust, so they will be aware if jungle stacks are built, but you kind of just want to ensure your Spectre will have a lot to clear out. They do build up a lot of stacks here on the triangle side on the large camp, and Cuckoo's just clearing it out really quick. Has the arcane boots to sustain his mana use, and no one's stopping him from Motivate.Trust. So, despite, again, being a Magnus, not really being the most active laner, he's still getting a ton of space out, and I'm surprised Motivate.Trust aren't really able to punish that.
Well, it's one of those things, right? Like T1, they have a 3-core lineup that can all carry the game. I think that's what we mentioned in the drafting stage as well as T1. They're going to have a pretty powerful late game. So you've just got 3 heroes that you need to try and watch out for Motivate.Trust. Whereas Motivate, they have their one solid carry in Toy. And I suppose Masaros can transition into a carry on the Lina as well. But more than likely, you are going to be heavily reliant on Toy having a good game. His top lane, Masaros. Up an Earth Spike there, but Q was rushing forward to try and get the battery assault off. So Masaros will remain fine. Got a bit of an aggressive tri-lane running here now for Motivate. Savage, he's going to start making his way back over to the jungle now. Understanding that they are going to come in. However, Carl has rotated on the Dragon Knight. Try to go after the Clockwork. Q, so he understands he's probably going to die, but it's a great Cogs out. It just won't matter as Whitemon had the impetus shot.
Yep, and that's a good rotation coming out from Carl. The big difference again with the Sand King versus DK. Dragon form lines up for kills. Fearless, because he knows Epicenter is probably not going to do much, doesn't have it. So he's going for the passive farm build-up. Not really able to clear out the creep wave as well. Great denies coming out from Carl. So he's finding everything on DK so far. And they could maybe look to shove in the mid. There are support rotations in for Motivate, though.
Fearless, strike out. Inkswell is there. Carl, Dragon Tower is going to be enough to get him away from the Inkswell, but they've got the Cogs off. Light Strike Array landed to boot, but it's not enough damage, so now they might be able to turn around, try to force the fight with Motivate. They decide better of it, they do back off. Again, I think their draft isn't so suitable to try and force these big team fights yet. So as long as everyone survives on T1, they should be more than happy.
Yeah, and they're just stalling out the push. T1, though, can just kind of keep shoving it back. They are buying a ton of space out for their Spectre. Savage is just playing in that jungle. He looks to be building the Echo Saber up, so he's going to have some early activity with a Haunt once that's up and running, and they haven't expended that first Haunt. So very disciplined from Savage to just wait for that big item buildup before looking for those kill opportunities. Very even game, 2-2, 1k lead still standing for T1. I think that is more favorable for T1, considering that Motivate.Trust does have this earlier timing, earlier spike they want to hit. So just keeping it even at this point is a good sign for T1. They're getting away with the stacks. They're getting away with the Magnus, just waiting for a blink, not being punished for having a passive off lane here. For Motivate, they kind of need this blink up on Fearless before anything can really happen. He is about 50 gold away, so it's not too far off. Sand King Blink might enable them to just start looking for the kill opportunities, even without Epicenter. As long as you have one follow-up stun, or as long as you have Masaros next to you, you can get that done. So it's down to our B1, B2 combo. Lina, Sand King, play with that Blink, look for the Burst Strike LSA, just kind of hunt down from there.
Yeah, and like you said, it's 50 gold away now. I mean, he could opt to get greedy and go for the Boots of Travel first, which we do occasionally see on these core Sand Kings. You can kind of abuse the Boots of Travel instead of the Blink Dagger, but you know, if you want the nice Burrow Strike Epicenter combination, you certainly want to just get the Blink first. And Fearless, he's going all the way for it. So Carl has reconnected now, so he should be just about ready to get this unpause and get this game 1 back underway. Savage, I think that means go. And he will eventually type out the G. Very nice.
Yep, at least we can understand that. One still smoke play out. Q has the hook. They just need the angle.
Yeah, but Carl's broken the smoke already, and I don't think that's a target they could really kill off. They're going to try. Hood shot is off the mark. Zephyr is now ready to turn with the Earth Spike. You've still got Carl around for the damage, and he's got the Dragon Form back up now. Again, it seems like T1 are just not interested whatsoever in trying to force the fight. I think if they back off, they're happy. That's about all they want. Still accumulating much more farm. Speaking of farm, though, Toy does now have the armlet up. So you are still getting this Wraith King farmed up as well. The real question is it going to be able to kind of deal with the 3 cores that are probably going to be just as farmed on T1? That's an answer we're going to have to wait and see for.
Yeah, it depends on the Radiant's timing. I think if you hit it at maybe 17 to 18, you're pretty happy. But it feels like on Wraith King Radiance is really more of a farming tool. Your damage output's nice, your presence in the middle with your 2 lives and Radiance Burn throughout that is great. Although smoke play here, Fearless.
I believe they wanted Cuckoo, but he skewered out. No real stacks to be taken either, unfortunately for Motivate.Trust.
Gotta strike fast.
Now the counter smoke T1, they know exactly where they are. TP's down to the bot lane. Looks like they want to try and defend, but the T1 tower is already gone. They're still going to force it. Carl jumps in onto Masaros. That Lina is going to melt very fast. Savage, he tried to juke out the Light Striker A, but it won't matter. They still got the kill onto the Wraith King now. Toy, he's in big trouble. Sensira is being controlled up by Carl, just making sure that Toy has no helping coming. That'll be the first life. Q now from the side, Burrow Strike, Epicenter is there, it's going to be onto Carl, but he is taking literally no damage. It tickled him, he took nothing. This Fearless is going to try him back now. Cuckoo, RP still up, he won't throw it out yet. Fearless, stuck in the sandstorm, but they've got the vision, and eventually they've got the kill. This Q is still trying to go in onto Savage. They've got the Spectre low, but not quite low enough. He's still alive as Cuckoo. He's still holding onto the RP. You've still got that big ultimate ready to go whenever. Toy gonna back off with that secondary life. He doesn't have reincarnate. His Masaros has been caught by the stun. Buyback is there by Q. It looks like they are gonna be able to get Lina. Now the RP's out. A very nice RP, but it's not enough. Cuckoo, he's gonna be the one to die as Toy gets the kill. And T1, I mean, it was a good fight for them, but it's still a great fight. I mean, 4 for 1. I can't say it's bad just because Cuckoo died at the end.
Yeah, it's still really good. Just a bit messy coming out from Motivate. Fearless, he was forced to jump the DK because of how far forward Carl was, and he just won't melt. He has too much HP, too much regen on hand. Epicenter level 1, probably one of the worst feeling ultimates ever. Right, and even the scaling doesn't feel amazing. 10 damage each. The pulses are nice, but you just can't really handle the DK. So Fearless has to look elsewhere for the target to melt down. Great fight from T1. The coordination's lining up. I mean, Savage, because he has the Echo Saber, just does so much damage when he does get the haunt off, and they just manage to clean up. Motivate, they've got some stacks to clear out. They need to just give Toy space to breed. You really just rush this Radiance ASAP and try to get even more on Fearless. I think once you have the travels on the Sand King, it is easier for him to just TP into a fight, find a good position for the Blink Burrow Strike, and kind of just run from there. Before that point, it's very hard to angle your shots here, and T1, they know they're strong. You just smoke up again, no RP, no haunt. but it doesn't really feel necessary against some of these softer heroes, especially the offlane Lina. It's just, they don't really have the big frontliners ready to go here on Motivate.Trust side.
They're not going to find anyone. Blink in from Carl, expecting someone to be around, but nobody quite there. A little bit unfortunate for them, because Toy was making his way up towards that top lane, but as he sees them blink in like that, he turns right back the other way and goes back into that triangle.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Motivate, they're going to be able to survive another day, keep Toy up, and well, Toy top of the net worth board right now on this Wraith King, doing a really fantastic job. There's not much in the way of keeping up with him at the moment. He's just well and truly ahead of everyone else.
White one.
Trouble. It's going to be a slower kill, but no, it's still pretty darn easy. Suppose you have the Laguna if you really needed it there on Masaros, but he does not.
And it's a nice little pick off to get. Not the biggest kill. Still kind of sets up. Masaros is rushing to BKB next on Lina. So you only really need to start worrying about RP at that point once the BKB is up. Still a ways off, but he is doing some good damage. He's very quick with the travels up. Very hard to catch out unless you get that nice Hex off. And they are looking to apply pressure on the mid. It's a little bit steady. The numbers are there from T1. And you can't fully clump up because of that threat of RP from Cuckoo. He's got the blink up as well. So a bit more cautious for Motivate. They're just trying to posture but not fully commit. So just to put some pressure on T1. It's not stopping Savage. Like, he has massive agent stacks and power again, kind of fixing the shortcoming of the Spectre and Flash farming here.
Absolutely. You know, a much faster process with that Empower here on Savage. They've got the Horn back up as well if they want to try and force a fight, but it looks like they're not quite ready for that. Now Blink on the way for Zephyr to boot. Definitely happy days right now for T1. Boy, though. Sacred Relic up. Going for that Radiance recipe next. And that'll be another power spike for Motivate to try and capitalize off.
Radiant's middle tower
He's even just going to TP down in the mid lane, not risking his life. He really doesn't want to die right now. No need to delay this Radiance. He probably will be allowed to take this for free. I mean, T1, they're not interested in trying to force a fight. So Toy's definitely going to have the Radiance. I imagine Motivate try to smoke up right after that.
Yeah, that should be the timing they play for. I just worry about smoking into that RP, smoking into the Haunt. It's not a very easy team fight for Motivate.Trust. They have to find their targets well. They do have good deep wards. A couple of nice wards by the lane up top, by the jungle up top. So they can kind of get a rough idea as to where T1's playing. And by virtue of that, they just need to have a little bit more patience. And for the most part, they are keeping it in check. They're still within 1k of T1, so despite having that Empower to flash farm under 3 heroes, they're not really able to pull off a big lead. And that is good news for Motivate as, again, they're just waiting for some of these spikes to be up. They're constantly grouped up as 3 or 4 though.
You know, nice skewer, Cuckoo. They can't see Q, but they've got the dust there from Zephyr. They'll have it, finger out. Nice little finger stack there for Zephyr as well. Carl will take the kill happily on the Dragon Knight. So it's not too big of a deal, but it is going to open up that mid T1 tower now. And T1, they do have the Dragon form up, and of course they'll probably want to pop it. They'll hit out the Glyph though. In fact, they may not even need the Dragon form, but they are going to use it. Yeah, just make sure you really secure the tower. Fearless, looks like he's setting up for an Epicenter initiation. We saw it last time on Carl, and it just didn't do much damage. They're going to use it, Carl. Now, this time around, it does do quite a bit of damage. He does take him out. In fact, Whitemon on the side also gets caught out by Masaros. So there you go. Apparently level 2 is where it's at.
Just enough damage flying out. I think the key thing was that T1 was very split up. So it was much easier to focus on that DK. Much more heroes from Motivate can focus their damage in. And they are going for that counter push now. Going to take that mid tier 1 in trade. No defense here from T1 without the DK. Toy, he's got the Radiance up. Going for the Sanj next, and they're still chasing that jungle, but don't really catch anyone yet.
You still got Cuckoo with the RP, so you have to be a little bit cautious, but it seems like without Cuckoo around, they're feeling confident to try and force the fight. They will take over that dire jungle now, just kind of knocking the door down and making their way in here, Motivate. Still plenty of time here for Savage to try and secure his own farm up. It's like he is going to go into the Manta and then into the Eye of Skadi. So a pretty standard kind of build up here for the Spectre. Nothing too different happening. Carl, he's going for the Agon himself. I mean, nothing's really changed here for the Dragon Knight. You know, it's all about the Blink BKB and then the Ags. Doesn't really need any items after that. He's happy. In fact, we've seen after the Ags, some DKs just go for a Moonshot.
Yeah, just attack speed, whittle away with your breath. Smoke out from T1, 4-man. They can just haunt in with Savage. If they find a good angle for that RP, this could be big.
Well, that smoke's going to be pretty obvious now, but QE still runs forward. Haunt is there. Should at least have the Clockwork. Haunt into the backside as well. They're trying to get the Clockwork who hookshot it out. Fearless, he's going to turn around now. Carl, he pops the BKB toy. He's going to try and back. He does have that reincarnation. Cuckoo going to skewer him back, make him further away from the team. RP there as well. They got both of them, but now the double Laguna out from Masteros and Set Zero. They're going to turn around with another Burrow Strike there from Fearless. Nick cleaning up. They well and truly clean up here, Motivate.Trust. A 4-for-nothing trade. They only got the reincarnate. And it's into the Roshan for Motivate.
That was very on the edge for Toy. He was empty of mana. He had stick charges. They're doing a good job with Zephyr trying to just drain down that Wraith King. Just wasn't enough. He couldn't get the second mana drain off. And now Roshan for Motivate.Trust. Potentially 3 lives out for Toy, but they're probably going to hand it to Masteros, and they do. So their lean is protected now to get the damage off. Love the build here on Masteros. Right after BKB into the Crystallis. He understands that while the Wraith King's strong now, your big right-click damage dealer as this game really scales on is likely Lina. She's got the range. She has the nice steroid and Fiery Soul. Just needs a crit stick into the Daedalus. So let's see how fast Masteros does get that up. T1, they blew a lot of their big spells. No RP for a minute, no Haunt for a minute 10. That's some downtime for them. They just have to go back to farming. Maybe once you have the Scotty up and Savage, it starts to feel a lot better, but that fight was certainly a bit forced. They just jumped onto Q first. Not the ideal target, I think. Like, ideally, you might want to kill off Fearless or Masteros first, but they did a great job there in Motivate.Trust to really split up around that ramp area.
Certainly did. Great K net worth lead now for Motivate.Trust as the SNY going to be built up now on Toy, looking stronger as time goes on. And Masteros definitely looking quite scary himself in this Lina. He won. It's back to the drawing board for them. You saw Savage in that last team fight. He just didn't feel quite tanky enough. Still farming well, but still, even with the Empower, not really able to keep up with the Wraith King, who just has that inbuilt farming tool with the skeletons. And, well, of course, on top of that now with the Armlet Radiance, does tend to escalate the farm quite a bit. I wonder what he does pick up after the SNY now for Toy.
There are lots of options. You could maybe start thinking about just an AC, tank up the front line, and kind of remove the right-click damage that can come out from T1 with a spec. Could be one route, and just makes him tankier to commit on, although...
Gonna reveal Cuckoo has TP to the tier 2 tower. They might still want to try and force this, but without the proper vision, they're gonna take their time. Rocket Flare back up in a couple seconds. Will give the vision they require. And there you go. They'll see everybody. Carl, he just ran out of Dragon form. It could be a nice time for Motivate, but they don't seem to want to try and force a fight by the tier 2. Instead, they are going to find Cuckoo, but a quick blink out. Hook shot off the mark as well. So they won't really get anything.
Good attempt on the hook. Believe that was blind. Didn't have the rocket flare up. No vision there. So just missing out on a kill. But they will get to shove the mid tower just a bit. Getting some good chip damage off. You do still maintain that 2k lead on Motivate. Not far ahead enough for T1 to feel worried. You're still farming up nicely here on Savage. But they are lagging behind Toy. 3k ahead on the Wraith King compared to the DK and the Spectre. Even Masteros is keeping up with those two big cores. So I think the farm distribution is going a lot better here for Motivate. They understand that Fearless on his mid doesn't need too much farm. He's taking the back seat. Already has his BKB up anyway on the Sand King. So you can just kind of cast his spells and just get the control off for the team. Rely more on Masteros and Toy to clean up. T1 for their part, farming in the bot jungle area. They know their top has been invaded. And they're just going to try to maybe apply pressure on the lane, look for a tower push. They do still have the DK form. The damage is really good with Empower, but they have to be careful about going for the trades. Top tier 2 will be pressured. T1 will smoke in response and maybe look for a wrap from behind.
Yeah, top tier 2 though, still dropping. Now walking through the long way. Of course, Savage can just haunt in for the fight, so he doesn't need to make his way over. Cuckoo. The smoke's still up. Staying hidden. Who's the target though? They don't want to go on the Wraith King first. They want the backline supports. And they do find Set Zero and Savage immediately in with the Haunt. Hook shot was there. Whitemon, it doesn't connect anyway. Set Zero, he does end up dropping. Now they've got Q on the cogs. However, Toys jumped in. They've got Zephyr. The Lion's down. Cuckoo to back off. Savage moving back in. Carl, however, does get Q on the clockwork. A very split kind of team fight, but for now it is still favoring T1. Buybacks are going to be bought out. They even found the Aegis on Masaros. Just avoiding the Wraith King altogether. RP won't be out yet. Cuckoo, can he get it out in time? They just perma-stun him up. Epicenter's out. There's the RP. Just in the nick of time as Savage. He can get to work with the Empower. He just shreds through Fearless. And now they get the reincarnation into the real-life toy. I don't think he can run out of this. He will try, but they have plenty of control for the Wraith King. And T1, they're going to be able to clean up Motivate.Trust. It was minimum 4 heroes going down, but I believe Set Zero did go down at the start of the fight. And it was indeed a full team wipe.
Well played from T1, saving that RP till the end. They didn't feel pressured. They did split up a lot better. So Motivate.Trust were much more scattered as well. They couldn't focus in their damage on one hero at a time. And losing the Grimstroke early hurt them. They really relied on the Soulbind double silence and the double stuns and the double Lagunas to actually get some good damage spread going. T1 finding the big target with a jump in from Carl really turned that fight around. And Motivate.Trust have to be a bit cautious. Game evens out 11-11 with a 1k lead for T1. Lots of wins here at the 27-minute mark. And T1, they've kind of narrowed the gap with Savage and Toy, even Carl. Just 2k ahead on a Wraith King. He is going for the AC next, as I mentioned, so he's just going to tank up, try to get more attack speed, maybe save his team out from the physical damage coming through from T1. I think what we really need to look at is Masaros. Right? He's got the Crystallis up, just straight Daedalus next into Satanic and Aeon Disc. So they should start shifting that farm priority towards the Lina. And Masaros is doing a good job of farming up. Once he has that Daedalus, we've seen a lot of games turn on the Daedalus Lina. Masaros just needs to protect himself until that big item spike here.
Yeah. A lot of damage. That's for sure. So T1, it's getting very clear now that T1 is finally starting to come online. And that last team fight, again, they just kited out the Wraith King over and over again, and it just didn't feel like they could ever really fight back on Motivate. It's the strength of T1 is just forcing the split kind of team fight here as TP's up top. They've got Haunt again. They could certainly force another fight, and Carl, he's going to jump in for the blink now, and there's your Haunt down immediately on Masaros, who wasn't expecting the rotation in. Fearless, he's already lost the Aeon Disc proc as well. He is going to try and blink out in time. Q. Spectral Dagger's going to connect. They should have the clockwork kill, and they will. The fingers there from Zephyr. In fact, Carl looking for more now. Does get the hit off on Set Zero. The slow is just so high. Set Zero will be the third casualty. T1 so dominant now as we're passing the mid game. Motivate.Trust, they've kind of lost their footing in this game one.
Yeah, it's just that the Spectre's way too big to handle. The initiation coming out from T1's way too smooth with Carl up front, and they just have all the follow-up. As long as Haunt is up, anyone Carl jumps is more than likely dead. And Motivate.Trust has to respect that. They can't have their Lina up front like that. Like, she has most damage, although Fearless.
Uh-oh. Well, he's going to find Zephyr. Let's commit the BKB. Gets a nice kill onto the support line. I think T1, I mean, you got the line, but I don't think they're going to be too concerned. Unless they lose more, and Q is looking. Shot is up. It seems like they were trying to target Whitemon, but he's going to be out of range now. Perhaps they can try to force a smoke here with Set Zero. He's still got 45 seconds without that line, and they are going to go for a smoke now with the line being drawn out right towards Cuckoo. Whitemon is in position to break the smoke and will. Masaros going to back off, and immediately Cuckoo is out of there to boot.
Great game sense from T1, great positioning to break the smoke. Motivate.Trust now can't really do much. They just have to go back to farming, have to go back to building up. This is buying time out for the Dragon Form to be back up, and Carl is down south. Not the target they'd want, but looks like T1 might collapse into them here.
I mean, Carl's moving in. They've got 15 seconds for that lion. Fearless has been spotted by Whitemon. Who are they actually targeting? They stun up the Wraith King. Toy, again, is probably going to be ignored here as Set Zero does reveal his position. With the Soulbind, he's going to force stuff down to the low ground. You've got that RP available. Cuckoo looking for it, but no, the Burrow Strike's there in time. Light Strike Ray out as well. They want to burst down the mag, and they will get him. But now Masaros is in big trouble. Savage, he gets the kill. Moving in for more. They'll take down Set Zero. Q conks out, but Toy, he's lost his first life. So now they can focus down the Wraith King. And Carl's proving to be a pretty big issue. So with all this slow on this Ancient Black Dragon, it's so easy to kite out the side of Motivate. And it looks like they're about to find a fourth hero now. They will even get Q down to the clockwork. The only survivor is Fearless on the Sand King. And he's gone for a run right onto the opposite side of the map.
It's difficult for Motivate. Every single time Haunt's off, they just manage to jump the Lina. I don't think you even care about the Wraith King at this point for Motivate. You need Masaros more than anything else, and he just gets focused on by Savage. He doesn't have a Force Staff. Could be useful to save the Force Staff on Set Zero to just get Masaros to a better position once the Haunt's up, and even then, Savage can just chase down, and it's just very awkward for Motivate to fully commit. T1 into the Roshan. Rosh number 2, Aegis Cheese, Ag Shard for the taking. Savage, he's got the damage, he's got the sustain to just rip right through by himself. And Motivate.Trust are lagging behind now. 5k behind, 13 to 18, 32 minutes in. I don't know how you handle this Aegis on Savage. You can't kill him once. Killing him twice is an even taller order. And he's even going to have the Ag Shard if he wants it here for the Dispersion cast. So a lot more coming out for T1. Motivate.Trust, the AC was ditched by Toy. He's going for the BKB instead. So he could stand and fight. The RP is still going to make short work of that. The Daedalus is up on Masaros, so his damage is up. The issue is he dies too fast. They need to find a way to protect Masaros when the Haunt's up, otherwise this Daedalus is not going to do much for him.
No, certainly not. And look at that line being drawn out from T1 now. Right to the Lina. It seems like they just want that tier 2 bottom tower to drop as... Well, Motivate, they did manage to get the top tier 2 tower. Just off the back of Fearless being very patient at that top lane. Just waiting out the TP out from Savage. Mid lane, Smoke Q is going to be caught. Nice hex there from Zephyr, and the Haunt in as well. In fact, that's just a shadow step, because we do have the Aghanim Scepter up on 23 Savage. So Haunt is still available.
Yep, and that Haunt's going to be really big. Again, just ripping through Lina. Takes out a lot of damage. Fearless up top. They did manage to get Hex, but no follow-up. They are still getting that push going on T1's end. Bot tier 2 gone. Bot jungle just entirely under the control of T1. And with that Aegis up for a very long time, I think they can start thinking about high ground now.
So they may.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Savage is going to start moving in. Fearless, he's going to start pushing the top lane out, but Zephyr's there, and they're going to shadow step in again. Aeon Discord, he procced BKB. He's going to allow him to TP out. Savage, he rejoins the team. Shadow Step is a very fun ability to have on the Spectre.
Radiant's middle tower is
It's just so good in getting that split aggression off. And now the high ground. RP still up.
under attack.
They've got the full Haunt still ready. I'm not sure what Motivate.Trust can do. Maybe if you get a good skew.
Oh, nice skewer. Toy, he's going to be alright. He'll go for the stun. He'll try to fight this one out. He still has those 2 lives. Haunt has been committed. No, it's another Shadow Step. They still have the Haunt up. Toy is copying a lot of damage now. He needs to find a way out, but he will lose the first life. They need to help him. He'll BKB, he'll go for a run, but the RP's there, Cuckoo. He'll hold him down longer. Toy still trying to run. Dagger out, Inkswell there. Burrow Epicenter is in from Fearless, but Savage, he still kills off 23 Savage. Meanwhile, Masaros has been caught out, and Toy, he does die to Carl. I believe it was just the splash damage.
Dire's middle tower
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just too much.
Radiant's middle
Just
Into
too
the
much slow. They
fountain.
couldn't run up.
Savage, he's just going straight
God.
fountain now. Earth Spike is there. They do kill off Q. They'll lose the Aegis, but there's no buybacks available right now for Motivate. So T1, well, they might not be able to go for T4s or Megas. There are still out of towers. And now they have lost the Aegis. But they are still going to have at least one Rax advantage. More than likely two.
Yeah, and you're seeing the shortcomings of Motivate.Trust. They had much better spacing there. They did prevent the Haunt from just immediately bursting the Lina, but they couldn't really line up their shots and wonders. They were too scattered out this time.
He has a Divine Rapier, John. Carl's bought a Divine Rapier.
Radiant's middle tower.
Oh,
Yeah.
that explains that.
Yeah.
There you go.
I was wondering why he was hitting so hard. But there you go. Divine's up. So I guess they are going for T4 towers. Into the Ancient. Fearless, nice burrow onto 3 with the 3-man ink swab, but where's your damage follow-up? It's just not there. Hook shot in from Q, gonna catch out Zephyr on the line, but that's not gonna matter as now Carl will just get right to work. Look at the splash. Masros, he almost dies to it. Horn toss up, Masros back into the fountain, but the damage is just way too high. Toys trying, but they call it. GG well played, T1. They had a game plan and they made it work.
Yeah, that was probably the best we've seen T1 ourselves since the group stages. This is the T1 that's on point, in form, coordinated from draft to execution, all lining up. Motivate.Trust. Now, it looked like they were hitting some good spikes, and they were handling their lanes quite nicely. They had Toy up there in farm. I think it was the issue of having Raid King versus Spectre, Magnus. Raid King's presence just doesn't feel amazing there, and they kind of had to shift their win condition towards Masros on the off-lane Lina. Now, he did have a good time in lane. He was managing to build up, but the issue with Lina there was that Haunt would always just burn him down. You just couldn't survive. Even with a 4-staff and set 0, there was always the dagger to chase you down, and they just couldn't match up. They didn't stop that farm from coming out from T1, and we talked about it. If T1 was allowed to stack up jungle with Magnus and Spectre, they were just bound to outscale the side of Motivate.Trust.
Absolutely. Well, with that, John, we are going to head to a short 10-minute break. And right after that break, we're going to be back with Game 2 between T1 and Motivate.Trust Gaming.